Hey everybody, this is Ryan Deal with 605 Sports. We are joined with Cole Larsch with Live Ticket TV. How you doing, Cole?
Doing pretty good. A couple tournaments done and boys tournament coming up. A lot of basketball to get ready for. And of course, state tournament weather. It's going to snow pretty soon. So just kind of par for the course.
Yep, absolutely. One of the best times of the year. We've been jam-packed with basketball over the last few weeks and everything, and you've been involved with a lot of that. It's been fun for you. Before we talk about the boys tournaments, which are going to kick off later this week and everything in Aberdeen, Rapid City, and Sioux Falls, we need to talk about some girls basketball tournaments. We weren't able to touch base last week and talk about the girls, but just a great girls tournaments in general, as always. Cole, what really stood out to you when you look back on the girls tournaments and everything?
I think you got to look at almost the biggest game of the entire weekend through all three tournaments was that Class A final. We knew coming in that if Hamlin could win out and Wagner could win out, that they would match up in that final game, and that was a really good game. Hamlin pulled out just by the skin of their teeth. Maybe some people thought it was going to go that way. Maybe some people thought it was going to go the other way. I thought that was a really good game. The whole 8 tournament in general, I thought was pretty good. There was a lot of good consolation games and even first round games in there. And then the Class B side, we got treated to a really good final game, especially, and then even the semifinals, those were all good games there. Vibrant Hurley obviously pulled it out with a really good fourth quarter, but you got to give kudos to Wall for hanging in there. And I think if that fourth quarter just maybe goes slightly more their way, it'll be a lot closer, and we'd be talking about maybe an upset here. But kudos to them, to Vibrant Hurley, for going back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. Viborg, I think whenever we had kind of started this thing at the beginning of the season, everybody just kind of penciled Viborg Hurley in as the favorite. Last year they made the Cinderella run on the route to the state championship. This year is a little different. They had that target on their back, and they answered the challenge throughout the season. 3 losses, 2 of them to Hamlin and Wagner. 2 pretty good A teams, and like you said, played in the state championship. So I was up in Huron for the Bees, and Viborg Hurley definitely looked the part again, but big shout out to Wall. Not a lot of people saw that coming. Knocked off perennial, kind of one of the top teams, Sully Buttes in the first round, and they beat number 1 seed Woolsey Wessington in the second round. And to me, that was one of the better games of the whole tournament, and certainly one of the better girls games I've ever covered. 76-72, just a back and forth, just a whale of a game. So that was really fun. And like you said, Hamlin and Wagner, I think kind of at the start of the week, everybody was just kind of looking at the bracket, and he thought that could be the matchup that we're all going to get. And it certainly lived up to the hype. And, Hamlin been knocking on the door here the last couple of years, finishing second 2 years in a row. So, big props to those guys for getting the job done. Got to talk about AA too. Pierre, I think kind of similar to Wall. There was Pierre, a nice story. The Governors made a run at it, and played for a state championship. I don't think too many people probably had the Governors penciled in to make a run at the state championship. Ultimately fell short to a good Sioux Falls Washington team. Those Washington got upset last year in the first round as the number 1 seed. So I think those guys were kind of motivated to get back there and finish the job. So there's always some compelling stories and teams when we get to these state tournaments. We analyze this stuff and break it down, and there's always a team like a Wall. There's always a team like a Pier that we're just nobody's really talking about. So it's always interesting to see the teams prove us media people wrong once they tip up the ball and go out there and play. So the girls were fun, and now we're gonna shift our attention to the boys. I'll be up in Aberdeen for the B boys, but obviously paying attention to the other tournaments throughout the state and everything in Rapid City and Sioux Falls. AA. Out in Rapid City. Cole, when you look at AA, what kind of stands out to you in that tournament?
Well, I think we have to start off right away and say that Jefferson's probably the clear favorite. I mean, you probably just say, "Oh yeah, the number 1 seed." Good observation, but they've just been really dominant in all their games this year. But then you look kind of towards the other parts of the bracket, you might say that Yankton squad is pretty solid. I mean, they're all around. They played really good. They've had some tough games, some tough losses as well. But you got to watch out for Yankton as well. Sioux Falls Lincoln, they're going to be really good. JT Rott going to Iowa State. There's a reason he's going to Iowa State. He's really good. Going to lead that squad. Everybody might think, oh, they can just throw it inside, but they've got so many shooters on the outside to help them out. That's just a really solid team. And then probably the best game of that first night we're going to see is between Mitchell and Pierre. And I've been seeing a lot of people trying to write off Mitchell, but they're a 3 seed for a reason. They're a sneaky good team. I know Pierre's really good as well. That nightcap out there in Rapid City should be a really good game. Watch out for those Mitchell Colonels, though.
Yep, absolutely. You know, we were kind of talking before this about maybe some games to watch, and you maybe answered that question for Double A. So I'll just kind of piggyback off of you on that one. If I had to pick a game to watch here in the first round, it would be that Mitchell Pierre game. A couple of ESD foes, a lot of talent on both sides of the court. Obviously, Pierre led by Lincoln Keenholtz, future Ohio State quarterback. But Mitchell, a lot of balance on that team, and they got some athletes as well, and some players that are going to play some college sports as well. With Dylan Solek going to Northern to play baseball, and Steele Morgan going to DW to play basketball. So it's always fun. I think when you get to the Double A tournament, because those teams know each other. They could play twice during the season. This will be the third time that they've faced. So Double A, I just think you kind of throw records out the window whenever those guys match up and everything. But I think going in, I would probably agree with you. If I kind of had to pick a favorite, lean towards one team, it'd probably be Jefferson. Those guys have, it's kind of crazy to think second year into it as a program, but they've just got loads of talent, and they're coming off that state football championship. A lot of those players are on the hardwood making a difference. So Jefferson just kind of looks apart, but I think a lot of the teams in Double A definitely looked apart. So it's going to be a fun competitive tournament out there in Rapid City. Class A, I think it starts with Dakota Valley on a 50-game winning streak, which is the longest Class A winning streak in state history. They topped Custer's record here a few weeks ago, I believe it was. Custer had the record for 49 straight, so kudos to Dakota Valley for getting that done. I guess, Cole, whenever you look at Class A, probably starts with Dakota Valley, but what else stands out to you?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, you can write in Dakota Valley almost as the champion right now. I mean, just how they've played. I've gotten my chance to watch them 3 or 4 times this season. It just seems like no matter who they play, no matter what time they play, they just come out, outwork you, outshoot you. It just seems like every loose ball goes to them. And, there's a reason they've won 50 games in a row. They're just that good. And then you can just kind of go down the bracket. But you can pencil in Dakota Valley #1, but the rest of them, they're all good squads, and they're all going to be great games that are going to be played. Sioux Valley Hamlin, they played in the regular season. It was a 3-point game. St. Thomas More, Elk Point Jefferson maybe won't be as close, but you got to watch out for Elk Point Jefferson. I've gotten my chance to watch them down working in that Vermilion area. When they're hot, they can take down almost any team in the state. I don't think they can quite keep up with Dakota Valley if they're shooting hot, but that 7-2 game, watch out for the Huskies from Elk Point Jefferson. And Sioux Falls Christian MVP, I got my MVP Titans sweatshirt on. I just went to their pep rally today because I'm back for spring break. Obviously, Sioux Falls Christian really tough. I think Sioux Falls Christian is going to win. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope I get flamed on Twitter for this. Everybody can come at me say I'm wrong. I think Sioux Falls Christian just has a really solid squad, but I think a good game to watch are going to be those last 2, even the last 3. I mean, Sioux Valley Hamlin should be close. St. Thomas More, Elk Point Jefferson should be a good game as well. And Sioux Falls Christian MVP. I mean, you can pencil in Dakota Valley 1, like I said. After that, it could be any team anywhere, just depending on how they play.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with a lot of those points. We got to, Hot Springs, kind of a quick shout out to those guys. Knocking off Winter in the Sodak 16. I don't think too many people saw that coming. I know when I saw that score, I was definitely surprised. So, props to Bison for getting the job done. But yeah, tough first round draw. They're facing a Dakota Valley team who's just on a great run right now and just loaded with a lot of talent. But like you said, those next 3 matchups I think are going to be fun. I think you're going to see a lot of talent on the court. All 3 of those games. If I had to kind of pick maybe a game I'm kind of watching a little bit more than some of those other ones, I think it's that Sioux Valley Hamlin game. Like you said, really tight game the first time they played, and both those coaches, Todd Neuendorf at Hamlin and Bill Vincent at Sioux Valley, are just basketball wizards, if you will. I mean, they're going to have their teams ready to go for that one. Both just well-coached teams and a lot of talent on that court on both sides and everything. So I definitely think that's kind of a game that I'm going to kind of be keeping my eye on first round action and everything in Class A. Class B up in Aberdeen. It's always fun going up to Aberdeen for the state Bs. When you look at Class B, obviously last year, DeSmit, obviously the last 2 years, DeSmit was the clear-cut favorite. I think it's safe to say. DeSmit back in the mix again this year as the 3 seed, led by Damon Wilkinson. So you obviously can't count those guys out, but I think this year it's a little bit different. I don't think it's obviously a runaway for DeSmit or any of these other teams. So I guess, Cole, when you look at Class B, what really pops out to you?
Well, I think when I first looked at this, I mean, we got the brackets out. I looked at them. I thought, this is almost wide open for Class B. I mean, there's 8 teams here that can go all the way and win it. It's just depending on their matchups and things like that. We've got 8 quality teams, and we talked about this going into regions, saying Class B is probably the most open. Now, I got to say, overall, based on just like overall best teams, best quality teams, I got to say Aberdeen Christian and DeSmit, probably the more well-rounded teams. I mean, all these teams have experience, but, you know, the DeSmit and Aberdeen Christian, probably going to be more well-rounded. Look out for Castlewood on that 8 seed. They got a pretty good squad. They've got a tough draw, obviously, but you can look at this whole tournament and argue that everybody's got tough draws because they're 8 good teams. I think we're going to have 3 days of really good basketball, and lucky for you, you're going to be up in Aberdeen, so you can watch them all front row. I don't think I really have a clear-cut favorite. I know my sleeper team going into this one was Ethan, and they made it. Maybe not the most flashy offensive team, but they're a great defensive team. But can they stop Aberdeen Christian? I'm not sure. We're going to have to find out. And like you said, your team was Viborg Hurley, your sleeper team coming in. They're a young squad, maybe have a little bit to prove, but they're going to have a tough test against DeSmit. When I look at Class B, I mean, I think it's wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would agree. Laura Brule at the top there as the 1 seed. They played some of these teams during the year. They beat White River, but they lost to Aberdeen Christian and DeSmit. So I think that goes to show you just kind of, and then they beat Castlewood, the team that they're going to play in the first round. So I just think it goes to show kind of the balance this year in Class B. It's always fun when it's wide open. You get up there in Aberdeen and anything can happen, and the crowds get behind their teams and everything. If I kind of had to maybe pick a game that I'm kind of got my eye on for that first round, they're all intriguing. Don't get me wrong. But I think that Laura Brule Castlewood, you know, let's start things off at noon Thursday up there at Walks Arena. 3-point game the first time they played. Brian Larsch Jr. Nailed a 3-pointer at the buzzer to give Brule the win in that one. So if it comes down to a 3-point game and some heroics at the end, it would be fine with me, because that would go to show what kind of tournament we could be in store for there up in Aberdeen. So that's kind of one game I kind of got my eye on. Any game you kind of got penciled for up there in Aberdeen?
I was going to say definitely that first game, and that Lower Brule Castlewood game, like you said, came down to a buzzer beater. Going to start off right at noon, see how both these teams come and play at noon. But then you look at that nightcap, DeSmit, Viborg Hurley, that should be a really good game too. Like I said, Viborg Hurley, maybe a little bit to prove yet, still a little young. But I think first game and the last game, I mean, all the games, no matter who's playing in them, all 3 days, we're going to have really good games. But definitely the first game and the last game in that first round, games I'm looking at.
Yep, absolutely. All righty, Cole. I think we're good to go. We're going to get ready to pack up and go out to some state tournaments this week. And thanks to everybody for kind of following along throughout the year, and keep following along this weekend up at all the state tournaments for your coverage on 605 Sports. And we'll see you next time.